Now the next thing is to create our database layout. In Python, or actually in all programming languages, there's a concept called object-oriented programming. And that's basically what Django models are. The idea behind this is that instead of having to write everything as a boring sequence of programming instructions, we can model things and define how they interact with each other. For example, a model could be anything. Suppose I created a car model. I could give that car model properties, maybe the color, the tire size, the model type. Is it a Ford? Is it a Buick? Is it a Volkswagen, right? And then this model could also be linked to other models. Suppose we took Ford for example. There's Ford Figo, there's Ford Fiesta. So you could link models to other models. You could have one main parent model, you can have child models, and so on. That's the whole concept of object-oriented programming, and that's what we need to do in our application. So we're creating a polls app, right? What could a polls app require? Well, the first thing is any polls app needs a question. So let's go ahead and just type in question for now. And every question needs some choices. So let's go ahead and type choices. Now, what do you think a question needs? A question needs a question text, okay? And then just for the sake of learning, let's go ahead and give it a publish date, okay? And then our choice. What does a choice need? Well, a choice needs, again, a choice text. But since we're creating a polls application, it also needs something else. It needs the number of votes, right? Because as a person is polling, as they take polls, we need a way to store the number of votes. So every choice should have a number of votes. I'll just go ahead and make that number. All right. So we have question text, publish date. We have choice text, number of votes. And this is fantastic. This is exactly what we want to do. Except what's missing? Suppose I created a question, what's your favorite type of car? And then I also had one more question. What's your favorite type of music? And in my website, what happened was the question was what's your favorite type of music, and the options or the choices were Ford, Volkswagen, and BMW. That doesn't make sense, right? So somehow we have to link every choice we create to one specific question. So we also need a link. Fantastic. So these are the two models that we have to create right now, and let's go ahead and get started. So what I want you to do is let's go ahead and add some space. I'll delete this stuff later on, don't worry. We're first of all going to create a new class and call this question. And we're going to pass in models.model. And that should be capital M after models.model. And the reason for this is because we're letting Django know that the question class is type model. Now, what's the next thing we need? Well, as you can see, we need to give this class question a question text. Let's go ahead and do that. Question text is equal to models.charField max length equals 200. All this does is it creates a parameter question text. It's a char field, and we've given it a max length of 200. Pretty straightforward code. After that, we need to get a publish date as we have right over here. So let's go ahead and say pub date is equal to models.datetime field, and we're going to pass in date published. Cool. So what we did here is we created two parameters. One is a question text, one is a pub date, and we've said that every question that we create, it has to have a question text and it has to have a publish date. That's it. So the next thing you have to do is do the exact same thing for choice. Class choice, models.model, capital M, and now let's go ahead and give it these three things. First thing was the choice text. So the choice text is going to be the exact same thing as question text. Models.charField max length should be 200. Cool. After that, we can now do the number of votes, and the number of votes will be an integer field. So votes is equal to models.integer field. Default equals 0. And now we need to get the link. There has to be some way where we can say that every choice that we create, it links up to one and only one question. And that's where something called a foreign key comes in. Go ahead and say question is equal to models.foreignkey question on delete models.cascade. Cascade. Cool. So let me quickly explain what the last line does. We're giving the choice class a new parameter. And all the parameter says is we're passing in a question. Okay? And this question, it has to be a foreign key of this question object, and then on delete equals models.cascade. So whenever we initialize the choice class, or whenever we create a new choice, it's gonna have a choice text, it's gonna have the number of votes, and it's gonna have a question of which it's a one-to-one relationship. Fantastic. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this extra stuff. All right, there's one last thing we have to do. If you remember when we ran our build in the last video, we saw something known as make migrations. Well, we have to do that in this case. So go ahead and right over here, you see our build running. Say Control C, and now our build has ended. What I want you to do is type the following code. It should be Python manage.py make migrations polls. Okay? It says app polls could not be found. Is it in installed apps? That's right, I forgot to add that. Go to your settings.py in your My Site folder, and underneath your installed apps, or right at the end of your installed apps, go ahead and add polls. My bad. And now that we have polls, go ahead and run the following command. Fantastic, it's made the migrations, and now we're going to say Python manage.py migrate. Cool. So now if you open up the migrations folder, you're going to see 001_initial.py. And this is just like GitHub. It holds all the changes, anything new that we've done. As you can see, it's create model. We created the choice model. We created the question model. We added a field, etc. So this is fantastic. All right, that's it. So what we've done now is we've created the database layout. We've added it to our installed apps, or we've added polls to our installed apps, and we've made the migrations. Now we can finally add data to our database, which we'll do in the next video.